Who is the most powerful angel in the Bible? The Bible names hundreds of things: kings, cities, rivers, mountains, genealogies that run for pages. But in the entire Bible, Genesis to Revelation, the word Archangel appears exactly twice. 2 verses. That's it. And in those 2 verses, only one angel is ever given the title. Not Gabriel, not Uriel, not Raphael. One name. And when you find out what that one archangel does when he finally stands face to face with Satan, you will not expect it. Start with the word. In Greek, it's Archangelos. 2 parts. Archi, chief, first, ruling. Angelos, messenger, chief messenger. A ruling angel. That's the whole definition. Not a species, not a rank of wings or fire, a position of authority. And here is where most people's assumptions start to break. Because if you asked 100 Christians to name the archangels, most would give you 3 or 4 names without hesitating. But the Bible gives you 2 verses. The first is Jude, chapter 9. Yet Michael the archangel, in contending with the devil, when he disputed about the body of Moses, dared not bring against him a reviling accusation, but said, "The Lord rebuke you." The second is 1 Thessalonians, chapter 4, verse 16. For the Lord himself will descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of an archangel, and with the trumpet of God. Read that second one slowly, it matters later. 2 verses, 1 name. So where did everyone else come from? Michael. The name is a question, not a statement. Mi-ka-el. Who is like God? Not a boast, a challenge. The kind of question you ask when someone has forgotten their place. And Michael doesn't appear often. 5 times across 3 books. In Daniel 10, he arrives as reinforcement. In Daniel 12, he is called the great prince who stands watch over the sons of your people. In Revelation 12, he leads an army. Michael and his angels fought with the dragon. Now here is what should stop you. Gabriel appears more often than Michael. Gabriel is the one who interprets Daniel's visions. Gabriel is the one who stands in front of Zacharias in the temple. Gabriel is the one who speaks to Mary and announces the birth of Christ. Gabriel is arguably the most important messenger in the entire Bible. And Gabriel is never, not one time, called an archangel. He describes himself in Luke chapter 1. I am Gabriel, who stands in the presence of God. That is enormous language. Standing in the presence of God is not a small assignment, but it is not the title. A careful reading shows something uncomfortable. The Bible is far more restrained about the heavenly hierarchy than we are. So if Scripture names one, where did 7 come from? The number 7 doesn't come from nowhere. It's in the text, just not where most people look. Revelation chapter 8, verse 2. And I saw the 7 angels who stand before God, and to them were given 7 trumpets. 7. Standing. Before God. John doesn't name them. He assumes you already know who they are. That assumption is the clue, because John's first readers did know. There was an older tradition circulating for centuries before Revelation was written that named 7. In the book of Tobit, which is scripture in the Catholic and Orthodox canons and not in the Protestant one, an angel finally reveals himself and says he is Raphael, one of 7 holy angels who carry the prayers of the saints before God. And in the book of Enoch, chapter 20, under the heading, The Names of the Holy Angels Who Watch, the full roster appears. Uriel, Raphael, Raguel, Michael, Sarakel, Gabriel, Remiel. 7 names, each with a jurisdiction. The world, the spirits of men, the luminaries, chaos, paradise, the resurrection of the dead. This is where the mystery begins, because for most of the Christian world, the book of Enoch disappeared. But not everywhere. By the 7th century, the book of Enoch had fallen out of use across most of the Christian world. For over 1,000 years in Europe, it was effectively a lost book. known by reputation, unread, except in Ethiopia. The Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church never let it go. Enoch stayed in the canon. So did Jubilees. So did the 3 books of Maccabean. This is not a conspiracy. Different Christian traditions arrived at different canons over centuries, through councils, language, and use. But the historical result is simple and remarkable. The complete Book of Enoch survives today primarily because Ethiopian monks kept copying it in Ge'ez, while everyone else stopped. And within that tradition, the 7 archangels are not a curiosity, they are taught. Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, Raguel, Uriel, Phanuel, Saquel, 7, each with a feast day. The lists vary slightly between manuscripts and traditions. Some name Remio, where others name Sakel, which is exactly what you'd expect from a tradition preserved by hand across 1,500 years. But on one point, the Ethiopian tradition is completely unambiguous. Among the 7, Michael is their leader. Which brings us back to the question we started with. If you build the case from Scripture alone, Michael wins on every measure. He holds the only title. Jude calls him the Archangel. He commands. Revelation 12 doesn't say Michael fought the dragon. It says Michael and his angels. He has forces under him. He is assigned to a nation. Daniel 12 calls him the great prince who stands watch over the sons of your people. Not a messenger, a guardian with jurisdiction. And then there's Daniel 10, the strangest angelic passage in the Old Testament. A messenger reaches Daniel after 21 days and explains the delay. He says the prince of the kingdom of Persia withstood him. And then Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me. Read that phrase again, one of the chief princes, not the chief prince, one of them. So the strongest named angel in the Bible is described in the same breath as part of a group. And that is the crack in the whole question, because it turns out who is the most powerful angel may be the wrong question entirely. Jude 9 shows you why. Michael and Satan, face to face, disputing over the body of Moses. This is the confrontation. The chief of the archangels against the adversary himself. Whatever authority Michael has, this is the moment to use it. And Jude records what happened. Michael, the archangel, dared not bring against him a reviling accusation, but said, "The Lord rebuke you." He didn't rebuke Satan. He refused to. The commander of heaven's armies, the great prince, the only angel Scripture titles, would not speak a word of judgment on his own authority. He deferred. He named someone higher and stepped back. The Lord rebuke you. Think about what that means. Michael's power is real, but Michael's power is derived. Every ounce of authority he carries is borrowed, and he knows it, and he will not pretend otherwise even when he has Satan in front of him, and every reason to. The strongest angel in the Bible is defined by restraint, which is exactly the opposite of the being he was standing across from. Because there was another angel, once, who did the reverse, who did not think authority needed to be borrowed, who looked at the throne and decided he could speak for himself. Michael's name is a question. Who is like God? Satan's fall was the answer he gave to it. Now go back to that second verse, 1 Thessalonians 4:16. The Lord himself will descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of an archangel. With the voice of an archangel, not as one. The archangel's voice accompanies the descent. It doesn't belong to the one descending. And Hebrews chapter 1 closes the question completely. The writer says, Christ became so much better than the angels. He asks which of the angels God ever called his son, and the answer is none. And then, let all the angels of God worship him, including Michael. The most powerful angel in the Bible is a worshiper. That is the actual hierarchy, not 7 names in a row with one at the top. A created order, however vast, however armed, and above all of it, categorically, someone who is not an angel at all. So, how many archangels does the Bible name? 1. Who is the most powerful? Michael, without much competition. And what does the most powerful angel in Scripture do when he finally meets his enemy? He refuses to speak for himself. The strongest being God ever created is the one most certain he isn't the strongest being there is. His name was a question the whole time. Who is like God? Nobody. That was always the point. If this raised more questions than it answered, that's the right reaction. There are 6 more angels in that Ethiopian list, and the Bible says almost nothing about any of them. The next investigation is already up.